You're listening to In the Lead, the podcast for real estate pros looking to grow their business. Whether you're new to the business or a seasoned pro, we come to you each week with the latest technology and online strategies to help you sell more, work less, and make a difference in your community through your real estate business. The show is brought to you by Easy Agent Pro, creators of Lead Sites, the ultimate lead generation website for agents. Hey, Easy Agent Proers, Sean here, and welcome to this week's episode of the In the Lead podcast. I'm super excited because I'm sat down with Tyler Zai, and we talked a little bit about some of the internet marketing and digital marketing statistics of 2016. We talk about the fact that the internet's becoming more and more important to consumers in every area of life, including real estate buying and selling. Be sure to check out the show notes where we're going to link to the article from the Easy Agent Pro blog where we have the different statistics and some of the info we found. So let's turn it over to my conversation with Tyler Zai.
I think that when it comes to these stats, the most interesting thing is that people are still debating if it works or not, and the people debating if it works or not are not people who've spent a significant amount of time investing in these. And so you can debate if this works or not, and that's fine. You're just giving opportunity to the people who are in your market who aren't going to even start that debate because they realize it's just a waste of time. We could have debated that back in 2006, but it's 2016 and everyone has a smartphone and Google answers everyone's questions and social media is answering more of those questions every single day. And the reason we're all doing that is because it's really convenient. You don't have to talk to someone. The best story of this is that the number of phone calls that the average person is making and taking compared to the number of text messages, Facebook messages, Slacks, all these things that we're using instead of communication. It's pointing out more and more how technology is becoming communication that whether you think it's good, bad, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's what people are doing. And all these stats point to that. And so the real opportunity then for agents is that this is how people like to communicate and like to get their information. And so if you provide it to them in that way, you're going to see leads come through. People are going to trust you because you're communicating to them in a way that they like better, and it's going to help you build your business.
Right. And also it's something that I don't know if people... I'm sure they think about, they experience this, but don't really think about is how much technology has enabled this and changed this so much. So I'm looking at your very scientific graph on that post with the color markers. Yeah. And it's landlines, cell phone calls, Google, Facebook, YouTube. Well, if you go back to 2006, YouTube didn't fully get launched until about 2004 or so. It wasn't even really.
And people didn't even have fast enough internet to watch the videos back then.
Exactly. And I remember thinking in about 2008, I was like, man, this is going to become every agent is going to be all over YouTube. It's going to become RealtorTube, and it's going to kill the whole thing. And that was, looking back on it, that was, I don't know, 8 years ago. It's incredible to see how think back to 2008, 2009, 2010, and it's you're well by this point everyone's going to have their own app, and literally people said well, YouTube doesn't work, everyone's doing it. And you look back at that and it's it's 2016 and no one is doing it. Most likely there's no one in your marketplace. I mean, that's a really broad stroke, and but
it's really true. No one in your market's probably putting out consistent videos on YouTube that actually help their target audience.
Yeah. And it's you see a lot of these videos from the cars. I would be okay if people stopped taking videos from their cars.
But they work. I was talking, this Ryan guy in Raleigh, he sent me a Facebook message the other day. He's got a lead from across the country who's relocating to Raleigh. And the only reason they contacted him was because his car video. The bar is not that high. It's taking a selfie video with your iPhone in the car is getting people relocated. And it's just because people are want to get their information passively. They're not going to call every real estate agent. That's incredibly painful for people. I think in my graph there, I said, like, no one answers their phone. Like, my mom doesn't even always answer my phone anymore. Like, back in 2006, like, everyone answered it was great to get phone calls. Now it just doesn't happen. And that's the cool thing about video, is that you can have that face-to-face communication, but the other person enjoys it better. Meanwhile, you're getting all the benefit of it.
And also, like, now we've had YouTube for a while, but now we have Facebook video. We have FaceTime and Skype. We have bombs, getting bigger and bigger all the time. So it's like, it's not even like it's just YouTube or just one thing. Now there's multiple different things, and it's like everything's kind of integrating into this device here. This smartphone that we keep with us. And I was just thinking the other day, like, I had a conversation with a friend on Twitter. She DM'd me, direct messaged me, and we went back and forth a couple times. And honestly, it felt like I was texting, but I wasn't using any kind of text, but I wasn't going through SMS or anything. I was literally going through Twitter and having a text conversation on Twitter. And that's not even a platform that you think of having conversations on. You think of like Slack or Skype or, Facebook, but like to the average user, you can have a conversation on text, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Skype or Slack or something like that, and it doesn't even feel any different because it's all coming to your phone anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, and that technology is enabling those alternate forms of communication, and now it's like, for real estate agents, so it's like, well, I don't want to be annoying by texting leads or whatnot. It's like, well, that's fine. Hit them up on Twitter. Hit them up on Facebook. It's all going to change and shift anyway. We'll always have texting, we'll always have cell phones and landlines, but it doesn't mean we're always going to be using them. Yeah,
I mean, even texting's getting attacked left and right. There's that WeChat, and then there's that Google's coming out with another texting mobile app that they want to compete with just like general texting. I bet texting goes like within the next 5 to 6 years, just because of all these other things that make it easier. Like when you travel, a lot of people are using like Facebook Messenger to, my sister's in London right now, and everyone uses Facebook Messenger because it uses Wi-Fi in a better way than texting does. So that she has international data, but not international texting with her phone plan. So like all these things, like texts are not even like immune to being, disrupted a little bit too throughout the communication thing. But I think back to those stats, like, just looking at them, like, if the average close rate of inbound marketing leads or organic search leads, it's like 14% compared to outbound like postcard leads being like 1%. I mean, if you think about those metrics, it's really just, all that's saying is that when people find you through the internet, they're 14 times more likely to do business with you than when you like cold contact them in real life. And in our personal lives, we can really see that data playing out, I think, very, very easily. And even these things we're talking about communication just being a bit more passive, and being like, watching a video of this guy talking about this one neighborhood in Kansas City, as opposed to calling up, an agent and like having a conversation about which neighborhood I should move to. Like that, no one's doing that in 2016. They're just not calling you up to figure out what neighborhood they should move to when they're out of town relocating. That's too painful for them to do. It's literally painful for people to do these days. It's not going to happen. Right.
Yeah, and also the high amount of competition that agents face, that's something that people don't really realize. Like, there's very few industries that have as much competition, like, kind of all around you. At the same time, most of that competition aren't taking those activities. But from the side of a buyer or seller, or someone who who for some reason doesn't know a real estate agent, or who's looking to hire someone or make that move, like, they're just looking for someone who's going to stand out in some way or another. And that kind of goes back to that phone video of Ryan. It's like, maybe it wasn't the most, it wasn't the highest produced video, like most like best produced video. But, out of all the people that person looked at, that was probably the only person who had the guts to get on camera and actually talk to them. Yep. And no, that person might not even, maybe may or may not have even liked what he had to say. Like maybe it wasn't even what he had to say, just the fact that they felt like they already knew him a little bit by the time it got like they met him. And they're getting that kind of like halo effect just from like experiencing him. I'm when I talk to an agent who has like 0 photos of themselves online, it's like I don't know how you're going to compete. Like people want to know who they're doing business.
Who you are, what you look like, what you've done, even if it's not real estate. Like oh, I was in my case, I was a classical musician. Like oh, I was a classical musician. Oh, you can write about that stuff on a blog. You can make videos about that. You can share stuff like that on Facebook, and it's just about making one little bit of something today, and then also making one little bit of something tomorrow, and just keeping up that cadence. And the way the internet works is once you have enough of those little bits, they sort of start working together and creating exponential growing effects, right? So let's say you make one video today and then you leave it, and then you come back in a month and you email me at Tyler@EasyAgentPro and say, Tyler, that video didn't work. I'm going to write back, of course it didn't. Like you can't just make one and put it in the ocean. You have to like make an island in the ocean of your content, right? You have to make like a video and then a podcast, or you can make a podcast. You can make a blog that you put that video on. Right. There are all these ways to make it connected, and that's what people are looking for. That's why they go to Google. They're looking for blogs that answer their questions. They're looking for videos that answer their questions. They look for people that they can trust. Like they're going to Yelp, they're going to Google to look for these things, and the only way to get their attention in 2016 is by putting out this stuff that answers questions about real estate, that answers questions just about your personality. If you like music, write about music, and you'll start attracting that type of clientele, right? Like, there are in any substantial, I know if you're like in the middle of Iowa, like you probably can't do this, but if you're in the middle of like a Kansas City or like Sean in Philadelphia, there's a big enough orchestral, opera, ballet community that you can write about the performing arts, and then those there are 2,000 seats in the average center, and you're going to attract that audience, and you're going to be the real estate agent for that audience, and that audience just so happens to be very wealthy, right. So you're going to be well off.
Now, like this kind of touches on something you said last week, which was, just to paraphrase, it was basically along the lines of, you don't want a first blog, like you're not going to get any kind of results off your first blog post. You're going to get that off of your 50th blog post. So like I kind of like I look at it as, and even like when it comes to some of these stuff, like I try to think like the hardest part is to start. But the most effective thing is going to be once it's already up and running. Like everyone wants a blog that's already, like everyone wants to jump into a blog that people are already reading and already has content, and they're just adding little things here and there. But no one wants to go through that hard, painful, like I'm doing the work and I'm not seeing any results.
Yep.
And it seemed like, and we do this as well. All real estate agents should blog. And people go around like, oh, you should be on Twitter, you should be blogging, blah, blah, blah. And, and I can just picture the agent who's just sitting there with a blank, a field. And it's just like, I don't know how to write this or what to write. And it's like, I don't say every agent needs a blog or every agent needs a place to blog. Everyone needs a 10th blog post. And it's like if you want to succeed in blog, you need to have a 10th blog post. And it's like, in order to get that 10th blog post, you have to write 1 through 9.
Yep.
And then you need the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th. But it's kind of like, the goal isn't to start blogging. The goal isn't to have 1 million blog posts. I would say like the goal is to get 10 blog posts, because and this is just an arbitrary number. Maybe for you it's 21, maybe for you it's 3, but it's just that idea that once you get in there and you start putting that content up, we all know that it's the habit that's going to build that momentum. But just kind of saying like, I'm not writing this blog post because I want this has to be a blog post that's going to be killer and everyone's going to love it. I'm just writing this so I can get to number 2, so I can get to number 3, so I can get to that 10th, that 13th, that 14th. I'd love to have some sort of statistic where it says, 95% of marketers by their 20th blog. Honestly, that doesn't exist, because
I think that there is a number. It's like 200. It's in your industry, in your market, people who have reached the 200th blog post limit or mark, they're getting like 90 to 200%, like I think it was like 100% more leads than everyone else in that market. So I'll look up the actual statistic and maybe put it on this write-up. But basically, once you reach that mark, you're getting all the SEO traffic, because it's just like if you take if Google is like a flat surface, right, and you set a bowling ball on it, and then you set a marble on it, and then you pour some water, all the water is going to go to the bowling ball.
Right.
So in that analogy, the water is traffic and leads, and the size of the bowling ball is your 200th blog post, and the size of the marble is 2 blog posts. Or 2 videos, or 2 Facebook posts, whatever you want, like insert anything there. And so what you're trying to do is you're just making your ball bigger so that when the water comes, you get more water. That's a great analogy for how the game works. And it is a game. It's largely just a game, attention-getting game. And you know, there are all sorts of things to help people, and we have tons of ways to write these blog posts, tons of ways to make it easier just by dictating stuff, there are tons of ways to do it. But when it comes down to it, are you going to execute? And the funny thing is, like, the thing we're talking about right now is you have to do this daily, and you have to practice and get, well, if you go over to, you know, Tom Ferry's podcast, or if you go over to any real estate coach, the Tim and Julie Harris about cold calling, or anyone else about active lead generation, they're probably telling you the same thing. The first time you cold call, you're probably not going to get a lead. It's just a fact. You might get lucky, but you're probably not.
Yeah, it's that data over time where it's like you can't say like, well, I spent 3 hours cold calling, I got 3 leads, so I must get a lead an hour. Or I made 3 hours cold calling, I got 0 leads, so cold calling doesn't work whatsoever. It's like, well, you're not going to be able to get that data over doing 3 hours. You're going to have to put in 100 hours of cold calling before you can say I average about, you know, one lead for every 2 hours of cold calling. Like, you need a data set. And it's very similar when it comes to blogging and SEO and stuff. It's like, well, that doesn't work. It's like, well, if it does, you know, like you can't look at someone who didn't actually do it, didn't actually put in the effort, or only got to like blog post number 4 and then say it doesn't work. It's like, you know, you need a bigger data set, and with blogging as opposed to cold calling is when that does start to work, it's not going to be a linear. It's not going to be linear results. It's going to be exponential results.
Yeah, I mean, just to like show, I mean, our results. Like when we wrote our first blog post, we got like maybe 1 lead. Right. And then when we're writing right now, probably like our 250th or 275th blog post, you know, we're averaging about like 275 blogs or leads a week, about 1,000 leads a month. And so what you see there is like an exponential effect, like it actually yielding results over time, like on top of itself, where when you do something like cold calling, once you spend that time, the results or the returns you can get off of that time are gone, right? You have to do the activity again to get the results. When you do something like this, you can then stop blogging or reduce the amount that you're blogging or making videos or doing Facebook and still get the results because you've built a machine that then gets you leads, right? So we're focusing here on building machine, this blog thing that lives out on the internet that people find, get to trust me, and then contact me, that then helps you get more and more and more leads in your business.
Well, there you have it. That's it for this week's episode of In the Lead. I want to extend a special thanks to Tyler Zai, who was able to join us for that. If you're looking for more great information on marketing your real estate business online, be sure to check out our blog at easyagentpro.com. Just click on the tab that says Read the Blog. And if you're looking for a lead generating website for your real estate business, check out Lead Sites. Head over to the website and click on schedule a call, and we'll be able to go through it with you to see if it works for your business. That's it for today, so be sure to subscribe in Stitcher or iTunes, and if you can, leave us an honest review. That really helps get the word out and helps support content like this.